Well, as 2025 is shaping up to be a very exciting year in the theme park realm with Epic Universe opening, as somebody who has been watching the Epic Universe construction from the time it was dirt to almost being completed, it's kind of a wild thing to watch being built and eventually being able to go to this brand new theme park. I've talked about pretty openly my thoughts on how Epic Universe is going to affect Disney, and I don't think it's a given. I suppose it could happen, but I don't necessarily think that Epic Universe is going to help Disney, as some people have alluded to, Disney being themselves thinking that. But I'm always looking for, what other people think about this as well, and some people sent this video over to me because a lot of people have commented that they like these reaction videos, and I'm not going to lie, these are fun to do and kind of play off of another point of view. So we have a video here from Great American Coasters. It says, Epic Universe continues to humiliate Disney. So I figured this could be a fun one to watch through and react to, so that's what we're going to do here today. So hi, I'm Jared with Capture the Magic, and we will just get right into this.
Alright, before we begin, I need to address the elephant in the room. I can't in good conscience make this video without admitting a very deep secret of mine. I don't know how to say this, so I'm just gonna say it. Whew, okay. I have never seen a Harry Potter movie. Up. Careful nerds, just hear me out before you tear me a new one. Yes, I have
That's a bold thing to admit on the internet.
not seen a Harry Potter film, and it's mainly because, well, there are quite a lot of them. But that doesn't matter, because despite not seeing a single movie, it doesn't take away the fact that
They play those things all the time on TV. I mean, you can almost watch a Harry Potter movie through those well, it used to be like on TNT and TBS back in the day. I don't think as much now, but they would play the movies where they were always on, like Armageddon, where you would watch tidbit parts of it. And there are certain movies that I think I've seen the whole movie, but not in one set down setting. I just happen to piece watch it together at different points in time. I feel like Harry Potter falls into that because they would do they always ran the Harry Potter movies around Christmas time. I think it was on ABC Family and things like that. So I always figured you would at least just watch parts of a Harry Potter movie just from that, but
I love the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Out of any theme park land across any theme park chain, whether it's Universal or Disney, I will say full-heartedly that this is the pinnacle of what a theme park can do. Not just because of the immersive theming, but the sheer scale of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Universal has so much to offer when it comes to Harry Potter specifically. There are over 4 rides spread across 2 lands, with a 3rd land that's being built to Epic Universe, which I'll touch more on later, but dang, Universal, they do not stop with the Harry Potter. It's coming to a point where I'm hearing a lot of talk online complaining about the new expansion of Epic Universe. There's definitely a vocal community complaining about the quantity of Harry Potter and saying, oh wow, another land?
I don't think the internet's ever complained about anything. I mean, my comments on any video I put out are just people agreeing with me. I've never noticed that before.
Already got 2, why do we need more? And to some extent, I can agree with that. Again, 4 rides, that's kind of a lot for one movie franchise. Forbidden Journey, Hagrid's, the Hogwarts Express that takes you to a different theme park land, where they have the Escape from Gringotts ride. Universal, they've clearly gone back to the well more than once, so it's only fair to ask, has the well gone dry? Is there still a market for Harry Potter rides? Now, if I had to pick a side without fence sitting for both oppositions, I would have to say for 100% certainty that yes, there is still a market share for Harry Potter attractions. Even though I can understand that maybe Universal, they should have gone with a different IP to try to adapt into a new land, I still think Harry Potter's got a lot of potential going forward.
I've heard people talk about this in the argument, but at the same time, doubling down into things that already have worked for you is not necessarily a bad move, until it doesn't work for you. So I suppose if the Ministry of Magic at Epic Universe doesn't go over well, people don't really enjoy it, I suppose at that point, obviously they'd say, okay, we're going to pull back on this. But given that you have 2 Wizarding World lands, obviously the big draw of the Ministry of Magic is going to be the fact that you are in the Ministry of Magic, which is something people that are fans of Harry Potter have wanted to be able to do for a very long time. And the ride that is in there sounds like it's bonkers from everything that I've heard. So I think even if the Harry Potter franchise, maybe, let's say you think that they're overplaying this a bit, if the ride's fantastic, if the land is fantastic, which I have no reason to think it won't be, even if people were kind of tired of it, does not mean that it won't be successful. Because I think at the end of the day, it's kind of like movies where people talk about like superhero fatigue. I don't think you have superhero fatigue if the movies are good. I think you have superhero fatigue when things aren't good. So if they're doing a good Harry Potter land again, even if you could make the argument like, okay, let's do something different, if they do it very well, the immersion is there like it always has been, and it looks fantastic for everything we've seen, I think it's still going to be enjoyed by people. Just my 2 cents on that.
I mean, you don't just casually build 4 rides for Harry Potter. If the public enjoys what you're doing, why stop? Universal should continue providing these experiences until people don't like them anymore, but that hasn't happened yet. Just look at Hagrid's. It's consistently the longest line in the park at Islands of Adventure. It's almost impossible not to wait a minimum of 90 minutes for this coaster.
It's true. If you're in the park and you see that thing dip down to 60 minutes or less, I mean, that's a great time to try and ride it. And I won't wait for that long for most rides. But, you know, if our kids aren't with us in the parks and it's me and my wife and we're just like, oh, it's 60 minutes for Hagrid's, let's get over there, that's the time to do it. So if you see that, you know, it's not uncommon to see 90 minutes plus for Hagrid's. And the reason being, obviously, Harry Potter, but it's a fantastic roller coaster. It's a great ride. And even if it wasn't themed to Harry Potter, if it was themed to something different, I think it would be just as popular, perhaps. But I think and I don't know if it was themed to something other than Harry Potter, if it would be this, you know, popular. But I definitely think, yes, it is themed after Harry Potter, but it is also just a fantastically well done ride. And that is a lot of the reason for the success of the Wizarding Worlds is not just the fact that it's Harry Potter, but it's Harry Potter done very, very well, immerses you into that world and that land, you know, unlike anything we've ever really seen before.
That proves that people, they still love Harry Potter and they potentially want more of it. If you have a golden goose, what do you do with it? Do you take it behind the barn and shoot it? No! You make more of that golden goose and you get yourself a gaggle. And you know what? That's exactly what Universal is doing. Soon, Epic Universe, it will be home to Harry Potter and the Ministry of Magic. Now, do I know what the Ministry of Magic is? Of course not. I have not seen the movies yet, but I have seen this Lego set based on the exact same thing. So I probably already know everything about it. But if we get into the nitty-gritty of the land,
I like this guy's style.
it looks like, dare I say, the best Harry Potter land so far. Currently, I prefer Diagon Alley over Hogsmeade, just because I prefer the condensed feel of the land with the large intricate buildings around you, and then at the end of the midway you see the Gringotts Bank with a giant dragon above you. Now, of course, it's not as chaotic. It's themed in 1920s Paris, and it's going to take a note from the Fantastic Beasts movies. Now, I may not be a Harry Potter connoisseur, but I do know what the public perception is about those films.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Wizarding World, like Ministry of Magic, I do have questions about being after the Fantastic Beasts, because I saw one of those movies, but they obviously weren't as successful as the original Harry Potter franchise. And I think the reason that the Ministry of Magic ride, Battle at the Ministry, is based off the original Harry Potter, you know, characters is because that is what people want to see. And I think that basing off the land, off the Fantastic Beasts, you know, you're going to have to, it's not going to be obvious that people are going to know all these things in this land because they haven't seen these movies as much. So I do think they have a little bit of a challenge in, you know, really conveying that on some level to the general public. But I still think they can take a Fantastic Beast. And I think the fact that it's like 1920s Paris, like that's a cool concept in itself of having like an old school Paris streets you can walk through with the mix in there with the Ministry of Magic. So it's a bit of a different one here, as you don't have this necessarily iconic land like Diagon Alley or Hogsmeade you're walking through, but they do have an iconic aspect of that, which is at the Ministry of Magic.
Does this worry me? Not really. There have been rides based on movies before that were objectively terrible. The biggest one that comes to my mind is probably Dinosaur Animal Kingdom. The movie? Ugh. The ride? Oh, it's pretty good. But as long as the park can execute it correctly, then it doesn't matter. And if we observe the flyover of the land, we can see that, oh yeah, the execution, it's chef's kiss, top notch. The biggest thing that catches my eye for this entire land is not only the Paris street, a near one-for-one replica from an actual Paris street, but the fact that it's a one-to-one replica of its scale. Now that has my brain buzzing. Universal, they didn't just take a Paris street and then compress it down in size to trick you with forced perspective. No, they're actually building a Paris boulevard. All the buildings around you, they're going to be almost completely authentic. Each structure is going to have a height of, no joke, 50 to 100 plus feet. To put that in perspective, Diagon height of, no joke, 50 to 100 plus feet. To put that in perspective, Diagon Alley, most of the building facades, they're around 40 feet.
I will say the scale of the Ministry of Magic, I think, is going to blow people away. Because, again, they've talked about this openly in some of the things that Universal has put out. But, yeah, the buildings and the scale in here it's nuts.
So the shortest building in the land is going to be taller than what the tallest structure is in Diagon Alley. And the tallest facades, they're going to be even higher than Hogwarts Castle. I know that doesn't sound believable, but it's true. Hogwarts Castle, that thing completely relies on forced perspective. But Paris, oh baby, this thing's going to be completely practical. There's no hiding the smoke and mirrors here, just pure universal magic front, right, and center. And all of this entire replica of a city street is just part one of the Harry Potter land. The real draw for this area is the Ministry of Magic, and the way they integrate this into the area, it's so unique. The only way to access the Ministry of Magic area, you have to go through the Flume network from the movies. So you enter a fireplace door, and then immediately the entire thing is engulfed in a green smoke effect that will transport you into the Ministry of Magic. How will they do this effect? I imagine you will enter the false fireplace with a concealed back, and once you do this, the fake puff of smoke will surround you, and you will turn a corner into this section.
I am curious how they are going to do that, but the whole aspect of it, I'm very intrigued by. Sounds really cool.
One thing that I'm not sure about with the Ministry of Magic is, will this area be strictly queue space, or is it something that the guests can just walk through? Because when looking at the presentation video, they don't mention any guest experiences besides the ride itself. You know, like restaurants or shops. That may not be the case, but if we judge the Ministry based on the photos, it just looks like queue space.
I think it's just queue space. I mean, I think it's at scale. I mean, it's huge in there. But yeah, I think this is all just going to be queue space, because I imagine the wait times for this ride are going to be pretty insane, if I were to guess. So it's going to have to handle a lot of people. And we look at the size of the show building here, it's almost as big as the entire land itself, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I think this is all queue space.
Which, you know, that's a little disappointing. The only way you can see the theming of this area is if you go on the ride. And you know, I get that. If we look at the Flume network, if they did have any other park experiences like merchandising or food, then the entrance to the Ministry of Magic would bottleneck horribly. There's only half a dozen fireplaces, so the only way to get in and out of the section is by physically waiting in line to get into the Ministry of Magic. Or else the entire place is gonna bottleneck. You're gonna have to cram next to everyone to try to get through the passage. Universal, they already have this problem with Diagon Alley. The brick wall before you enter that land, it's so narrow, you constantly have to sidestep everyone to even get through. And if it wasn't for that, the entire land itself, it's so tightly compact that it feels like you're shoulder to shoulder and crowd crushed between everybody. And if you look at this network over here, it would be the exact same case. So even if there may not be any normal guest access to see the area, it's still pretty cool to witness the Ministry at 1-to-1 scale while you're just waiting in line. But anyway, moving past the Ministry of Magic, let's talk about the ride for the Ministry of Magic. Now, we know the attraction, it's called Battle for the Ministry, and we know it's going to be an elevator type.
Not to nitpick, but it's Battle at the Ministry is the name of the ride itself.
Type ride. And that's about it. Universal, they have released shockingly little detail about this ride.
They are being very tight-lipped about this ride. And I don't think we're going to hear anything else about it until the park opens. Like, they've had a few, you know, they showed us some animatronics at the Death Eaters and a little bit about Dolores Umbridge and things, but we still don't know really what this ride is, other than you are on an elevator on some level, but like all the different things you can do. In terms of compared to what they've showed about all the other stuff, for the most part, inside of Epic Universe, we know very little about the Battle of the Ministry.
And yes, that kind of goes for every ride at Epic Universe. Universal has been very discreet for each attraction because they want their guests to be surprised when they eventually do get to go on them. But that also means we don't really know what we're supposed to be excited for. So all I can really do is take an educated guess on what this attraction might be. So going back to square one, we know it's an elevator type ride. What kind of elevator? Don't really know. Is it going to be something like Tower of Terror or something akin to Tower of Terror? An idea that's been floating around is that this ride, it's gonna be stationed on a motion track. So they're gonna take the elevator car and set it on a giant moving table that can freely move up and down and laterally. Think of this kind of like the Kuka arm on Forbidden Journey, but instead of a small row of 4 that's lifting, it's the size of, again, an elevator.
I don't know if this is accurate. I can't remember where I saw this, but I think he's right in that. I believe from the things that I've seen, but that's actually utilizing the same ride vehicles of like Spider-Man and Transformers, but those can actually go much higher than they do on those rides. So that's the same ride mechanism that's going to be on this to do the up and down motion. But I don't think you're going to see like a Tower of Terror drop. Like it may have some drops, but I don't think you're going to see like that level of drops like Tower of Terror. But I think probably from what he's shown there in that little diagram there, and from what I've heard, I think that's pretty accurate from what I know. Again, I haven't talked to anybody at Universal. I don't know how any inside sources here, but from what I've heard, I think that is accurate.
But besides the ride system, what's the entire attraction going to be like? Is it going to be screen-driven or practical effects? Well, we heard from Universal this is going to have a pretty big show building, which is to be expected. When the ride vehicle is a large elevator that's constantly oscillating between 1 and 2 floors while moving along a track, it's kind of the standard to have a large show building to accommodate this. And with that, they want to install large practical set pieces. Universal, finally, they are moving away from screen-driven rides and are going all in on animatronics and massive fake facades that are constantly surrounding you and appear larger than life. This is something Harry Potter rides have always done all the way back in 2010 when they opened Forbidden Journey, and
I think this one's going to be a mix, though, because we do know the actress that played Dolores Umbridge, she went back and filmed scenes for this, but they also have shown the animatronic for the Death Eater. So I think it's going to be a mix of screens and live set pieces like we've seen before, like he was talking about. So I don't know to what ratio, but I do think that's probably what we'll see.
They are still continuing this trend, going all out, cutting no corners to give you the best Wizarding World of Harry Potter experience. And with that being said, that's it. That's the entire land at Epic Universe. Now, even though I like this project, it's not my most anticipated area at Epic Universe. That still goes to Dark Universe. But you know, this is a very close second. But that's it. Harry Potter was the last land Universal needed to announce. We now know everything about the park. Every land, every ride, every experience. So, the question still remains, what is Disney going to do about this place? They still have no rebuttal for this park. Sure, D23, it's coming up soon at the time I'm recording this, but I don't see them making any major announcement.
So, since he did this video, they did have their announcement to D23. They announced the Monsters Inc. land. They announced the Cars land type of thing going into Frontierland. They announced the Encanto, Indiana Jones, Tropical Americas area. And they also announced the Villains Land that can be behind Big Thunder. But of all the things they announced, I think Villains Land is the one that has the most maybe hype about it. I think that probably has the most potential to be the most popular because people have been asking for some sort of villain land. I mean, there were rumors out there for years that Disney was going to do an entire theme park based off of villains alone. So I think Villains Land is the one that has the most potential, but the fact that it's going to be the last one done, I don't think that's a great decision. But I mean, I do agree. I don't think the things that Disney announced are gonna really, in terms of like comparing to Epic Universe and the scale there, like they've got a lot of work to do. I'm not gonna judge them necessarily based off any of it yet, because first off, I don't really believe Disney and on their concept art, it always changes. So I'm not gonna take too much credence into the things that they showed, but they're gonna have to really up their game in terms of the last few things that they've done. Because I think, you know, Toy Story Land's fine. I think Galaxy's Edge is a big swing and a miss. I think Pandora is a great land. If they can do these lands very similar to how they did Pandora, I think that would be a pretty big win for Disney. But obviously, looking at Epic Universe, Disney is going to have to hit this stuff out of the park that they announced. And you've already seen a lot of these things have issues with the permits from the state not being approved. You've also seen people being upset that Monsters Inc. land is replacing, you know, Muppet Vision 3D in that area. So as it goes a lot of time with Disney, it's not necessarily what is going in, it's what are they taking away, because it's not really expanding outside of Villains Land. Most of it is just replacing something else. You talk about the Rivers of America and things like that. But I do agree. I have a hard time seeing Disney going to be able to compete on the level that we're seeing, even if it's just Ministry of Magic. The scale and all of it is very impressive, and it's not something you see all the time in theme parks.
Disney, they're playing Monopoly by themselves, while Universal, they're getting stuff done. And it's been this way since the original Harry Potter land opened. When Universal debuted Hogsmeade, Disney, they were pretty reactionary and didn't know what to do. And I imagine it's going to be the exact same case when Epic Universe opens, and especially the exact same situation when this Harry Potter land opens. I just find it so funny how the world just goes back full circle. Disney, they thought nothing of Harry Potter, it paid off for Universal, and it's still going to keep them successful over 15 years later. So all I have to say now is, Disney, your move.
Like I said, it's a good video. Go check it out on Great American Coasters. I'll link to it in the description below. Now, the title of it being, Epic Universe continues to humiliate Disney. I mean, I do think when you're looking at the things that they're doing with Epic Universe and the fact that there's a lot of ex-Imagineers that are working for Universal, and if you look at a lot of the people that are in charge of Epic Universe, a lot of them have ex-Imagineer in their titles. So that's something right off the bat you start noticing. And it does feel like that the creative people with Epic Universe and at Universal Studios were really allowed to just do, go wild, do the things that you want to do, really try and hit a home run or a grand slam with it, and really budget not being an issue. And then when you compare that to Disney, where everything they've done recently it seems like it's budget constraints, it's pulled back, it's not what they showed initially. And until that pattern changes, until Disney actually proves through the things that they do that they're back, they can do the things like they used to do or like what Universal does. I mean, I'm just simply going to assume that won't be, because until, again, your best predictor of future behavior is your past behavior. So if we look at Universal, we see the things they've done and see the concept art and we see the things that are being built with Epic Universe, we can put two and two together and say, yeah, it's probably gonna be pretty great. There's no reason to think it wouldn't be. And when you look at Disney, Epcot Overhaul, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, in my opinion, Galaxy's Edge, all the things that were initially shown in the final product is not living up to what was shown. And you can see a lot of budget cuts and things are just drastically different than what was shown. That brings into some questions about, okay, Disney announced the things that they announced at D23, but are those things that they showed going to be the things that end up being done? Do they get done to that level? Are there cutbacks? And there's a lot of questions, going into 2025 now with Epic Universe, like Disney is going to have to, offer massive discounts here. Are they able to build this stuff rather quickly? Because if they're not, I know they said their timelines. I think when you look at most of these things, we're not going to see any of it until 5+ years. If you look at their typical construction timelines, and Disney builds slowly, essentially Epic Universe could have about a 5-year run here without anything from Disney in terms of a rebuttal. And Universal's already came out and said they're replacing Rip Ride Rockit with a new roller coaster. More than likely, you're looking at the Simpsons Land could be replaced, Lost Continent. Like, there's a lot of places in which Universal is going to go back into their existing parks to upgrade those. And not to mention, there's expansion paths outside of Epic Universe. So by the time Disney gets the things that they announced, built and done, we very well could see 1, 2, if not more new attractions from Universal done during that time period on top of Epic Universe. So I think the speed at which Universal really goes after things and the money from Comcast being a backing from them, like they're not going to shy away from spending money as they're seeing the ROI on this. And I think Universal senses Disney being weak, and they are going to pounce on that and really go after even more market share. And until Disney proves otherwise, until management shows that they understand where they're at, because they're still acting as if they're not worried about Universal, even though their actions would prove otherwise with discounts and things. But until they recognize really where they're at and really make changes, I don't see how whatever Disney's going to do, what impact it's going to have. Is it enough to pull people back over to Disney after the fact when these things open? There's a lot of questions about it, and I think rightfully so to ask these questions. But, in terms of this video with mostly being in the Wizarding World here, I do agree. I think it looks fantastic, even if the Fantastic Beasts weren't a great movie franchise. It underperformed in that sense. Universal Creative being able to do these things, immerse you into 1920s Paris, and obviously putting you into the Ministry of Magic is something people have wanted for a very long time. So I think even if, the movie franchise isn't the best, you can still create a great land at scale here that if you don't know this franchise, you'll enjoy it. Just like he was saying, he hasn't seen the movies, but he loves the Wizarding Worlds. And that's part of the charm and the great thing they've done with these is even if you don't know these movies, you can still go in here and enjoy these and many times go back and watch the movies to really appreciate it even more. So I think overall, everything we're seeing with Epic Universe, I haven't seen anything that makes me worried, that makes me think like this won't be great. Everything I'm seeing, I just get convinced more and more that this park looks absolutely amazing, something we haven't seen before. And I'm really curious, not only what they do with Epic Universe, but what happens after Epic Universe opens. Do we see sort of quickly go into the existing parks to update things there. Because I do think that Universal needs to update things in the existing parks to really bring it up closer to the level of Epic Universe, and especially as they continue to compete with Disney, which I think they will do. But in terms of when you compare this to Disney, I think not only the things that Universal is doing, continue to quote humiliate Disney, but I think the things in which Disney just does to themselves is pales in comparison to the things they used to do. And again, I've said many times, Disney created the standard in which theme parks are to be judged, and they're falling short of their own standard. They used to, the details matter and all these small things. And until they get back on track, maybe they get enough of a wake-up call from Epic Universe, from Universal, and, eventually do that. But until they do that, Disney's just not what it used to be. And I think it's definitely clear to see that the true innovative thinking and the pushing the envelope on creativity is on Universal's side, and it has been for quite a while now. And I don't see any reason as to why that's going to change anywhere in the near future. Again, be sure to go subscribe over to Great American Coasters. It's a great channel over there. If you want to check out the video, I will put it in the description below. But either way, that's going to be it though for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, do you agree with this video that Epic Universe continues to humiliate Disney? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.